Hello everybody, my name is Sylvia Walukiewicz. For several years I have been working as a life and personality coach, as a psychologist and as a sensitive and mediumistic consultant. I also give workshops and seminars on various topics of spiritual development. A crucial topic that I often see in my clients is that many of them don't know why we store our challenging emotions, since they are rather considered as a burden. What's more, almost nobody knows how to deal with their vulnerability, and very often they even reject it. Why is that? Why do we especially store emotions that remind us of challenging experiences in our past? For what reason do they rise time and again into our consciousness? And why do so many people reject their vulnerability and don't really know how to deal with it? Firstly, I would like to address the issue why it is so important that our energetic system stores the unprocessed emotions and lets them arise until we process them consciously. In order to understand this, it is important to know what happens in emotionally challenging situations. For example, as a child, we witness a dispute between our parents. We start to feel insecure about how it will continue in the future and develop the fear of being alone. Because of this situation, which is perceived as very menacing by a child, it's very probable that we lose the feeling of security, the trust, and the belief that we will be taken care of. As a child, we perceive this situation as a real menace and store it as such in our energetic system. Later on, it can arise into our consciousness through situations which are at least a bit similar, and it will create the same emotional stress. Among others, this happens to us in order to finally reintegrate the lost pieces of feeling secure, trust, and the belief to be taken care of into our energetic system. In short, our unprocessed emotions remind us of the need to emerge into some situations in order to reintegrate our so-called soul pieces to become complete again. The same explanation can be applied to most of the situations in our lives, not only in our childhood and our youth, but also during our adulthood. Moreover, there is no difference if the emotions have arisen for the first time in this or in past lifetimes. They are all stored in our energetic system, and our lost soul pieces need to be integrated as well. In the following, I will explain more about it. Let's move to the second question. Why do so many people reject their vulnerability and don't know how to deal with it? Firstly, we need to know that our vulnerability is part and parcel of our true selves, and that everyone is vulnerable, no matter how thick their so-called emotional protection wall might be. Secondly, social conditioning is one of the reasons why we reject our vulnerability. Previously, it was about surviving, having enough food, how to behave during and after wars, and so on. In these times, our vulnerability wasn't welcome. Nowadays, it is more about performance, showing one's capability, distinguishing oneself from others in reaching certain goals. The questions that we need to ask ourselves are: where can we find some space for our vulnerability? And where is the space for our emotions? What's more, many people reject their vulnerability because they are afraid of being hurt or criticized by others. This lack of consciousness in regards to our emotional inner world is mirrored in the constant increase of the depression and burnout rate. In other words, we have never really learned how to deal with our vulnerability, nor with our emotions. This happened particularly through social conditioning, but also because we have adopted these beliefs and have started to treat ourselves according to them. In the following, I will elaborate on the two questions mentioned above. Furthermore, I will explain with some examples how you can recognize which parts of you still need integration and which emotions still need to be processed. In addition, I'll show you simple ways to better deal with your vulnerability. I wish you a lot of integration and compassion for yourself. Hello everyone. In this short video, I would like to address the two questions: why do we store emotions and how is it linked to our vulnerability? First of all, I would like to explain you what vulnerability is. And I can tell you it's not easy to explain it in a few sentences, but I will do my best. So, vulnerability is the most genuine part we have. Vulnerability is all of our needs, for example. So, the need of being loved, the need of being appreciated, the need of being just hugged, and that the need of receiving attention. So, and the need of being valued, and every soft parts of us are stored like in our vulnerability. So to give you a picture, when we are born, we are just like a big piece of vulnerability, because as a baby we have just the needs. We have just the need to be loved, to be hugged, to be appreciated, to be embraced. But afterwards, for example, when our parents don't give us the attention we need or don't appreciate us as we wish, then we start to feel pain because our vulnerability is hurt. And in that moment, we start to feel some emotions, maybe of sadness, or later on of fear, and maybe anger. And these emotions are building up a type of a wall, and we have less contact to our vulnerability, but it's still there. So our inner world consists, for the most part, of the vulnerability and our emotions, in my opinion. So vulnerability is really our most genuine parts, our real self, basically, and it's not only it's not negative as many people think. It's more that we just open up as we are, and we are authentic, and we show ourselves just as we are, without any protective walls, because usually we don't need them, but we think we need them. So if, for example, you are in a relationship, you open up more and more because you feel more love for the other person, and then of course the person gets closer to your inside world, to your, let's say, to your vulnerability, basically. And then you start to feel more vulnerable, and you start to feel maybe some vulnerable parts from your childhood, which you have forgotten about because you had these walls. So, and what happens when, for example, we as a child, our parents don't appreciate us or don't give us the love we need. Our vulnerability is hurt. And maybe we start to believe that we are not worthy of being loved. So we start to suppress the part, the vulnerable part of us, which needs the love, and we start to build a wall. So then we suppress day by day more parts of our vulnerability, and we get more like controlled. And how is it linked to our emotions? It is linked in a way that when we start to suppress our vulnerable parts, usually we suppress them because we feel the pain. So in a moment we are rejected by somebody, we feel sadness or we feel fear or anger. And then we start to feel these emotions, and usually we are not processing them in that moment. We just feel them, we perceive them, and usually we don't do anything about it and we store them in our system. The problem about it is that they come up time and again in our consciousness. So for example, in the future, if we perceive a similar situation, we feel again the emotion of being like rejected or the fear of being rejected. And we start to perceive the same reality as we perceived in the past. So why do we store these emotions? Why do we need to store such challenging emotions? Basically, they are very important to recomplete us. So in a moment where we are not appreciated, rejected, or not loved, we start our need of being loved is suppressed. So, and in that moment, we maybe start to believe, I'm not worthy to be loved, or I'm not worthy to be appreciated by some people. So we start to suppress our vulnerable parts, our needs, our wishes into our subconsciousness. So in that moment, they are no longer available in our conscious mind. Yeah? So it is like we are less and less complete. But the good thing is, while we suppress these parts of our vulnerability, we start to feel some emotions. And later on, as we are in similar situations, we start to feel the same emotions again. So in the childhood, when our parents were, for example, quarreling a lot, and we felt the feeling of being insecure and lost our trust in being saved or being taken care of, then later on, when we have a dispute with our partner, probably we will start to feel the same emotions. We will start to feel fear, maybe the fear of being abandoned, and insecure. So, and this is good that we feel that. Because when we dive deeper into these emotions and we go back to our past and we can identify this situation with our parents, then we can start to find the parts of us which we have lost there. And then we have the chance to reintegrate it. So another example, for example, a woman or a man who was abused. It's a hard example, but like this you maybe understand how I find the lost pieces. So when a woman or a man is abused, then, for example, they have suppressed the part of feeling worthy as a person. Maybe they have suppressed the trust. Maybe they have also suppressed the feeling of being secure. And so they start to build up some walls and they continue living within or in that new reality that they cannot trust nobody, that they have to take really care of themselves, and that they always have to protect themselves. So this is a really difficult reality, and it's really hard to live like that. So fortunately, as according to the law of attraction, we will attract time and again the same reality. And if we start to observe ourselves and to find the situation in the past where these emotions arose for the first time, then we have the chance to find our lost soul pieces, how I call them. So finding our lost soul pieces goes through the stored emotions. So the things are really connected together. I know it's really difficult to really understand the connections in such a short video, but I hope I could explain it a little bit better what I mean. So all of the parts are important. When we have emotions, I would recommend you to really check where they come from, and especially if you experience time and again the same situations. Then really start to check where it comes from and what part you suppressed. Because our vulnerability also consists of the trust and of the feeling of being secure. But in that moment when, as a child, something negative or really challenging happens, we suppress within ourselves the feeling of security, because we don't believe that we are secure or that we can be secure again. So we are cutting off parts of ourselves, and then we miss them in our future. So I really recommend you to go mentally and emotionally back into your past and to collect more and more of the parts. This you can do really just with perceiving what you've lost. So maybe in my last videos I have give you some exercises how you can make your emotions flow and how you can identify which emotion you feel and why do you feel it. So based on that, try to go even deeper and try to find out how you felt before that challenging situation and how you felt after. So then you can see, before you felt secure, you were happy, you knew that your parents would take care of you, and after this situation, you didn't feel that anymore. So then you see, when you compare these two situations, what parts you have suppressed and what parts you can reintegrate in order to become complete again. So I hope I could bring you this topic a little closer, and if you have any questions, please send me an email, call me, or check my website for further information. And yeah, thank you for watching this video, and see you soon.